I think most people will agree that the world is a different place now. I think even more people will agree that the world is worse off now. In this episode, I'm going to explain a theory that I have that explains the decline of humanity and why things seem to be worse now than it was before. This is the Good Living Podcast, and I'm your host, Koke. Tough times create strong people. And it goes on like a poem, and that's why I love it so much. Because it goes on to say that those tough people create good times, and then good times create weak people, and then weak people create tough times. And I know somehow we are living in between the tough times that some weak people created for us, or we are the weak people that are going to create even tougher times for the people that come after us, which is the next generation. When you were younger, if you looked around yourself, you would see a certain level of organization that doesn't exist anymore, like a quarters, where everybody's father or mother is employed by the same company. In this case, it is the Nigerian army. In the case of different quarters, it could be different companies, but you all have a similar upbringing and a similar childhood because your fathers have the same income, so to speak. Your mothers have the same kind of routine, and then they form relationships with each other. The men are work colleagues. The women are wives, co-wives, wives of soldiers or wives of the office men. And then the children are obviously neighbors, and then they hang out with each other within that environment and have that community. And so there are always reasons for collective celebration or collective sadness because everybody feels everybody's pain and everybody contributes to the society somehow, like an ecosystem. It could be the same in your estate, but you don't have that relationship in your estate. That's extremely good for our mental health. But that has nothing to do with the decline, in my opinion. It just goes to show that the olden days had a lot of qualities than the current ones now, because these settlements have been phased out with the rise of remote jobs and work from home and settlement patterns and apartment building and just a certain culture right now that really encourages subsistence. I hope that's the right word in the right context, but it encourages independence, solitude, and it invariably discourages community. And I think that is one of the reasons why people refer to the good old days, because there was just something better about it, aside things being cheaper and the whole world being. In the good old days, the far back you go into history, the much more empathetic a government was, a governing body was towards its people. And it seemed like as time progressed, selfishness began to grow, classism, elitism began to grow, and now it's at an all-time high. The very first reason I'm going to point to as to why the world is worse off now is that the people in the world are weaker now. Men of the past had the courage to lose their lives for a lot of things, for a lot of causes. There was much more honor, much more courage. Just that willingness to be able to fight for something and die for it is a characteristic of strong people. And those strong people are very few in today's world. And as a generation, I class us to be generally weaker than the generations before us. Probably not the direct ones, but at some point in our ancestry, we fell off. And one of the weaknesses is our IQ, our intelligence. When I was growing up, I found having much more information than everybody else pretty easy because I was very curious. And as I grew older, I began to understand the disparity between people, the information and knowledge that people had, because I'll try to draw on references when I meet people. References that in my head, I would expect them to grab because I thought what I was learning, everybody else around my age was learning. And then I got into certain circles and certain settlements, and there is a depth of stupidity that I became introduced to. And before this point, I was not aware that people could be this inept. I highly doubt that this level of stupidity existed when my grandfather was my age. Statistically, IQ is generally lower between 20 years ago and now. The average IQ is generally lower, but this is stats for Americans and Europeans. Nobody came here to measure our own. I don't think there's a standardized IQ test for Africans even. But I think that we copy what the West does in Nigeria. I don't think we've been fully mentally emancipated to the point where we don't copy what they are doing. So every single thing that is trending or that has trended in our country really has roots in the Western world somehow. Maybe Black American women have an influence on Nigerian women or African women in a way, or their movies have an influence on our movies. But somehow we have this copycat culture that has stopped us from innovation and thereby reduced our IQ. In my opinion, that is the analysis that I give it. And I think that shows, even in generations. I'm going to attach a clip of a movie scene.
How is Jim?
Jim? Oh, he's well. He's been so nice to me these days, girl. You couldn't imagine it. How about your boyfriend?
Boyfriend? I've been so tied up with the farm, cattle, microscope, and all the other work. I can hardly think about boyfriends.
Okay, that was heavily UK influence, but you get the point. In those movies, the eloquence of the speech of the actors and actresses is nowhere near what we have currently. I think our drop in IQ is evident in the quality of our media. Our music used to be quite enlightening. Yes, before it was the musicians who really had the props because their wordplay, the poetry in the music, and the message that they passed was impressive. It just was meaningful. It's okay to say the word meaningful. As time progressed, we have laid more emphasis on the producers, whoever can make a good tune to stimulate the subconscious, and automatically you like a song just by hearing the beat. And that takes the onus off of the artist. And then they can release meaningless lyrics. And we are dominated now by meaningless lyrics. Obviously, that is evidence of a dumber society. There is this interview between Wole Soyinka, One Other Man, and Chinua Achebe. I think that we'll call that the 1970s or 60s equivalent of a podcast today. And that conversation is miles better than most podcast conversations that I've heard to date. I'm going to attach a soundbite from that.
A real masculine energy in Igbo society. Now, in Things Fall Apart, Okonkwo seems to me to represent the kind of figure in society who is acted upon from within by this kind of strong spiritual quality. Now, I'd like to know from you whether this is a conscious derivative in the creation of this character.
Well, not consciously, but Okonkwo, as you said, symbolizes, if you like, strength and aggressiveness. Now, these are some of the qualities that his people admire.
You see the quality of the two Nigerian men when they are talking. It just doesn't exist anymore. And we've been left on one devices. You could say, yeah, they were very, very close to colonialism then, and so that proximity to the British man made them so. But as human beings, I think we can always build up on something that we were left with. Not just rot into decay because they left you alone. And so the world is a different place for the simple reason that it is different people that are running the world now. We are different. We are not the same as the men who ran the world in the 60s or the 40s or the 1800s. Significantly, as time has passed, genetically we've been made up of different things. For you to be dumber, your brain would look different than the person who lived 50 years before you in the same environment. And so if biologically you are not the same, your tendencies will not be the same, your ideas will not be the same, you're motivated by different things now. And so if you have some position of power, it will show. Remember when you were in an organizational setting, maybe at work or in school or wherever, where you had one leader and he was replaced with another one, and you could feel the difference in the environment because of that change. That's exactly what I'm talking about, that is happening at a global scale. It's just like replacing your old principal with a new one, and his new personality affects his policies and entirely the world at large, or the school at large, or the office at large, whichever example you're using. But the reason why the world is worse off is because the personality, instead of being different, is just weaker. Now, these are the effects of low IQ that links this to why the world is the way it is today. The lower a person's IQ is, the more politically apathetic he would be. And I think this is the crux of the issue. If you're lower in IQ, you will not be interested in government or governance. You'll be politically apathetic. I still remember when they taught me this topic in social studies, political apathy. Or was it civic education? But it is that non-interest in politics. And the lower your IQ, the less interested you'll be in politics, in the things that shape your life, in the things of government. And as the society has become dumber, less and less people are interested in deciding their future or helping those who are aware to decide our collective future. And there's no sitting on the fence on things like this. If you're apathetic, then you're supporting those with the highest power. And those with the highest power are the elites in your world, in your country. If I'm going to trace it back to the causes of low IQ, one of the major causes is marijuana use. Over the last 50 years, there's been a drop in alcohol use in men, in young people. And I think that is evident. You don't even need the stats for you to be sure of that. We are the generation of our parents. I'm 28 now. And by our parents, you see people who are in their 50s, 60s, 70s. That generation drank a lot in their youth. It was all about drinking. They always had bottles in hand if you see their old pictures. And our generation now, we are not so much drinkers, but we are smokers. A lot of people smoke marijuana. And I think the effect of marijuana on the brain has dumbed down a whole generation. Another major issue dumbing us down is screen time. And this is my favorite to talk about because it is the one that is the most unhinged, it is the one that is curbed or that has the least effort at being curbed. Many children are left alone with screens for hours because it is so effective when it comes to letting their parents have some free time. If you give your child a screen, he is going to be hooked on it to your advantage, but also to the child's detriment in the long run. And this screen time dumbs down everybody, not just children. But the reason why the next generation is going to be significantly dumber than ours is the age from which they're exposed to these screens and the age from which they are addicted to these screens. Remember I said the elite's empathy and consideration of the community was much higher in the past than it is now, which means the people who run the world, the people who make these phones or have this technology or have this power are not interested in the welfare of your kids as they would have been 60 years ago. That puts the responsibility on your kid and yourself, or the kids around you and you, to make sure that these addictive screens do not ruin their futures or their IQ. Because the leaders don't care anymore, because they are made differently now than they were before. They're different people now. Before, they probably chased some kind of well-being for the collective, but now it's just about profits. And the last thing that can lower your IQ is junk food, like sugary things, especially at an early age, stumps brain development. My kid is going to eat so many eggs, like so many eggs. I don't know how much I'm going to learn about nutrition before I get my first child, but from what I already know now, I know I'm going to raise a smart child just because of the knowledge of choline. And so with the current generation like this, where we have sugar, we have screens, so we don't have to go out, and then we have weed or alcohol, the mixture of that not going out because of the screens, which leads to no movement, and then junk food, and then alcohol, you're just going to be fat and lazy and dumber. And with that lifestyle, we head to our next point. The fatter a person is, the lower their testosterone. That is on the average. A lot of people who are big still have healthy levels of testosterone. But on the average, testosterone levels have dropped between 1960 and today. Massively. It has dropped a lot in the West, but the drop in our part of the world is not really that much, but there is still a drop regardless. And testosterone is not just that hormone for aggression that men need to feel like men or to grow beards or whatever. Everybody needs testosterone because it has different benefits. You need it for motivation. You need it for competitiveness. You need it to enhance your muscular strength. You need it to slow your fatigue. You need to improve your focus. Things like tiredness will not come to you quickly if you're doing some work, if you have enough testosterone. You will have more endurance and more resistance. And that's the use of that hormone. And then it is lower in us. Imagine the opposite of all these things that I've said. You are low in focus. Your fatigue is fast. Muscular strength is low. You don't have any competitive spirit. You lack motivation. The lower you are in testosterone, this is your fate. And this is the fate of us as a collective. It's just that it is a slow movement. And so you're not really tracking it. Enveloping all these things together, it is inevitable for the world to go worse, because the good times that we are creating for ourselves is creating the weakest of us ever. And so the thing that I've decided to do is to guard my own intelligence. You know, they say that if you're arguing with a fool, people from outside do not know the difference. And so there are lots of things that I'm sure of. There are many things that I don't know and that I'm not sure of, much more than I'm even sure of. But when there's a debate and I know that I have information that can settle that debate or help improve the knowledge of the people that are co-debating, if I bring that knowledge forth and I'm met with arguments that is not coherent, that doesn't really challenge my argument to the point that it makes me think or reconsider my point, it is just an argument backed by ego, I let it die. I let it die because I'm trying to protect my intelligence, and I think you should too. You should protect your IQ, you should protect your brain with the activities you do, protect your testosterone, see what you can do, not to take supplements, but honestly, I think there is hope with the rise of gym culture. And there's two sides to every coin, because gym culture is the thing where everybody wants to be seen as somebody who takes fitness seriously, who works out, and I think that influences a lot of people to genuinely go seek fitness for themselves. But I think for a lot of people as well, it's just for the optics. You know, they want to take pictures. I post a lot of gym photos and videos. Intentionally, yeah, I like it. I like to also identify with the people that work out. And the good side to the coin is a lot of people are working out. And the bad side to it is that a lot of people are just showing off. But I think even that bad side has the good effect of inspiring people to actually do it for real. And so I think we should keep that up. In Nigeria, I think there's a rise in awareness now. People are beginning to know what is going on around them, not just within them, not just within their circle or their family. They see how foreign policies, foreign happenings, and even politics within their country affect their lives. 5 years ago, I couldn't have cared less about what is in the national budget when it is announced. Now I want to know what's on there. Now I'm interested. And so it is kind of easy to say that people who are not very interested in politics are probably not very smart. Because if you deep it, this thing has direct impact on your future. It's you cannot ignore it. And if you want to, you're just too stupid to realize. And that is where the argument should end. It's really difficult to leave people to their fate, especially people that you love. And you always try to save them. But even they tell you in swimming school that if you're trying to save somebody and it seems like they're going to drag you down with them, you just let them drown. You just gotta let them drown. And so to reiterate what I'm going to do with myself, I take everything that boosts my testosterone seriously, which is just doing hard stuff, lifting weights, running, competing, in football, in mental challenges, doing new things, and also things that protect my IQ. Less screen time, less sugar, and more mental stimulation. This has been the Good Living Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please go back, check our other episodes, and give us a follow. See you next time.